What if your biggest financial struggle wasn't about making more money, but about what you believe about money without even realizing it? This episode is for you if you feel like you should be further along financially, or you feel guilty or ashamed when you think about money, or you often think, I'm just not good with money. So let's get to it. Welcome to this mini series on the hidden ways we sabotage our finances and how to finally break free. Over the next few episodes, we're going to explore the real reasons money might feel harder than it should, and it's not just about how much you make or how well you budget. We'll look at those silent mindset patterns, the tiny habits that are draining your financial power, and the tactical mistakes that sneak in behind the scenes. My goal is simple: to help you see those patterns without the judgment, reclaim your power, and take small, meaningful steps towards unstoppable financial momentum. So, whether you're feeling stuck, frustrated, or just ready to feel more confident with your money, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, let's talk about a form of internal sabotage: emotions and our belief. So, commonly, really, your beliefs. Let's start there. Your beliefs when it comes to finances. You are not going to exceed past what you believe. Have you heard of the story? There's if you put fleas in a jar and you put a lid on it, they'll jump to get out, right? But they only can jump as far as the top of the jar. So they'll hit the lid repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. But after a little while, you can take the lid off and the fleas will still only jump to where the lid was, because the belief that they've created is they can't exceed that. But we don't even realize where we're stuck here, where we've put the lid on ourselves. So we're going to talk about that today. Probably the biggest two beliefs. Well, there's a bunch, but the biggest two, we'll start with these two, is the fear of success and the fear of failure. And oftentimes when we talk about the fear of success, people will be like, you're crazy, Amy. I don't have a problem. I would love to have this amount of money. Like, this would be great. But then we don't really show up the way that we need to within our business. We don't ask for the sales because there's a safety there. There's a security there. Because if you reach the successful level that you're talking about, there's going to be new challenges that show, right? That old saying, new level, new devil, really it's the same thing. It's just a next level of the same tendencies that you've had. You're just working to continue to improve. And a lot of times they're the same thing. But if you're more successful, you're more visible. There might be more rejection that shows up. And we can get caught up in that fear of failure. I've done this thing before. It didn't work out. I'm never going to do it again. I did this launch before. I tried this budget before. It didn't work out. I'm not going to do it again. That's just not for me. It doesn't work. Because we feel like the exact same thing is going to happen again. And your subconscious mind does a lot of this for you, right? And it's designed to protect you. I'm so thankful that we have that portion to protect us from the lions and bears and all of those things, right? But this here, we're actually really safe. It's really not the end of the world. You're not going to die if you send that sales email. It's not going to happen, right? But we have to untangle those fears, those emotions, those beliefs from our finances and all the areas they affect. So, for example, one of the questions that I got in response to one of the sessions in the Beyond the Numbers Summit, audio summit, was, how do I untangle my sense of self-worth from immediate business outcomes or income results? Because we talked about removing yourself from there, that it's not about having those results show up exactly the way you want them to in that exact moment. Can you hold that belief that your results are coming? Doesn't matter if they haven't showed up yet. They're still coming. We know the sun's going to rise tomorrow. You don't doubt that, right? We know it's going to happen. Your results are coming. You've done the work, right? But your self-worth being tied to that external result, I'm only successful if I see this external result right now. That's not how it works. It's a deep emotional block, right? We have to identify where we've set this belief on ourselves, right? Where we've set this up. Why is it that this thing has to show up in this exact manner right here, or it means something about you? Doesn't mean anything about you. Another question that I had got that I feel like is tied to this here, the fear of success and the fear of failure and how they sabotage us with our success with our finances. And it's kind of a similar type thing, but they said, how do you maintain confidence in your business when the numbers aren't adding up yet? Air quotes on the adding up. Again, we have to go back to managing our expectations. Just because something hasn't showed up yet doesn't mean that you're not successful. And like, where can you shift that? Where can you find this success? We talked a little bit about this last week. I think you heard that part of the session. So, for example, like with taxes and bookkeeping, if you've got guilt and shame tied up because you haven't hit your income goal yet, and you feel shame because you haven't, quote, turned a profit, there are still a lot of benefits that you have from owning a business. You're still successful. The profit will come. But we have to, again, manage those expectations. Those, I think, expectations and the beliefs there, those are so huge. But it's not just we have these beliefs, we have these expectations, and then we have the emotions attached to it. And then you get to a level where you feel guilty about the fact that you haven't turned a profit yet. And then you compound the guilt. And then you're mad at yourself for feeling guilty that you haven't turned a profit. And then you're frustrated that you're mad that you haven't, that you're feeling guilty that you haven't turned a profit. Do you see how we just compound that? And we compound it in that negative direction. What if you could shift that? What if you could shift the idea that, you're not good with money or you always struggle with money? Whatever that might be, what the guilt that's showing up around the past financial mistakes, those things there, what if you could shift it? You can be thankful for the tax deductions that you've taken, that you can be thankful for all the information that you've learned. How much growth have you had from your business? Is there not success in that? If we can be grateful for the success that you feel right now when you're not turning a profit, imagine how much more, how much magnified or how magnified it's going to be when you do have that profit, and compound those positive emotions instead of beating yourself up because, air quotes, you should know better. That's the other thing with our mindset, especially in the personal development industry. We've learned, right? We learned about our mindset, power of positive thinking. But the problem is you can power positive thinking, but if in the back of your head, you've got this little naggy voice that's like, you should know better than this. Why are you doing this? You don't really mean it, but this is what you need to be doing. You should be doing this. Your energy and your emotional state, that match is what we need to work on. And it's a skill. It takes time. One of the other questions that I got here was, what should I do if I already feel guilty about past spending and debt? How can I start releasing that guilt? And guilt is such a huge thing. That's a lot of what we do. But this is what we're talking about here, right? Change how, and let's see, this is 207, should be 204. Episode 204 is where I talked about this, and finding the gratitude in those expenses that you've made. Because in the moment, you felt like that was the right expense for you. What are the positives there? How can you release it? Quick reminder before we continue, if you are enjoying this conversation but sometimes struggle to actually make space to work on your finances, this is what I created Execution Lab for. It's the monthly space to check in, ground yourself, and move forward on the money tasks that tend to get pushed aside for just $9 a month. You know what to do. This is about making the space to actually do it. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to check it out, because this is the thing that we work on, is that quick check-in to, again, move forward, make sure you're prioritizing those things. Another belief that we see show up is family, like patterns, family dynamics. This is the way that my parents were, so this is the way that I had to be. My parents were poor, so, of course I had to be poor. And I don't like to give like tons of examples like that, because I want you to see the possibility. There is no limit on what you can achieve. But if we feel stuck and I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or this is my small business, those identities that we've put on ourselves, that society has put on us, those patterns that we can create for ourselves, they're not real. But identifying what those are, that awareness, that's the biggest thing. We're not going to fix it right away. You've spent so far up to this point in your life believing this thing. You're not going to necessarily do a 180 immediately. It's not as simple as buying a new car or whatever. Buying a new car is a little bit of a long process. It's not as simple as just, going to the store and buying something. Okay, hey, it's done. Check the box. Not quite. But when we create the awareness, why do we believe the things that we believe? Why do we believe that just because the last launch failed, air quotes failed, you didn't hit the profit numbers or the revenue numbers that you wanted to in the last launch? Why does that mean that this launch won't show up? Why does that mean that somebody can't come to you and be like, I want to work with you now. What can I do to help with you now? Even if you're not in the middle of a launch. We have to hold that belief, that possibility that those can be out there. But on the flip side, we can't be caught up in the expectation that it's going to happen. This is where like manifestation and mindset kind of fall short. Because yes, we can hold that expectation, but if it doesn't show up when you think it's going to show up, what happens? Does it take you out? Are you just completely devastated because you didn't hit this and you were sure it was going to happen? Can you hold the space that it's going to show up? And if it doesn't show up when you think it's going to show up, it's still coming. It's just in a better timeline. It'll be better in the delay. You're still doing the part that you're supposed to, right? You're still doing the work. You're doing the mindset work. You're doing the strategy work. You're doing the emotional alignment work. You're doing the things that you need to. And you can believe that's going to show up now. It's going to be there. And if it's not, you're going to be okay. Because the expectations, I know for myself, the expectations is one of the things that used to take me out completely. And it still does. I've just gotten better at it. Those unmet expectations. And I think we could talk about that. This is the thing that takes us out in a lot of areas. I mean, how many relationships have suffered because of unmet expectations that we didn't communicate, or just maybe you did communicate and it was still unmet? And I'm not going to get into like right or wrong in the relationship, but this is where we look at ourselves and our beliefs and then emotional regulation. Okay, so getting clear, being aware, this is what creates the power. My action step for you today. Where do one of these patterns show up for you? Don't judge yourself. Don't go into that. Just identify, hey, where am I self-sabotaging my financial success here? And remember, like I said, the awareness is the first step to reclaiming your personal power. If you are ready for deeper support, I had two things that I want to make sure I mention. First, the execution lab. That, again, is that monthly space to check in, ground yourself, move forward with your finances, the money tasks that usually get pushed aside. It's just $9 a month, and it's the perfect way to stay consistent and create lasting financial change without pressure or overwhelm. But if you're ready to go all in to create that real lasting transformation, then I'd love to invite you to join me inside the Unstoppable Experience. That's my high-touch 12-month mentorship where we blend personal financial strategy, deep emotional regulation, and the mindset rewiring so you can step into your unstoppable life. You'll stop just managing money and start embodying your financial power, creating true wealth that supports your values, your vision, and your vitality. You'll see all the details for both programs linked in the show notes below. And then I'll see you in the next episode where we'll keep building your unstoppable momentum, your unstoppable finances, one powerful shift at a time. This is a mini series. So, 3 more episodes where we're going to talk about the hidden ways that we sabotage our finances. So, that's it for now. We'll see you next time. Are you tired of not seeing consistent cash flow? What if you could stop wasting countless hours working on the wrong things only to leave yourself more frustrated than you started? All without jumping from strategy to strategy just to try to find one that works, and without requiring a week of reflection or a time audit because you don't have time to do the things that you need to as it is. My cash flow calculator might be perfect for you. This assessment style calculator reveals your blind spots and what you're missing so that you can finally see consistent cash flow month after month. So grab my cash flow calculator absolutely free and unlock the right work that you're probably already doing in order to finally see consistent cash flow month after month. It's only going to take 90 seconds and you don't need to know any of your numbers to actually do this. Then, as a bonus, there's a special way you can get me to give you feedback on your results. Simply go to amycirca.com/cashflow to access, and of course, that link is hanging out in the description for you.